So Hasbro has combined two of their original properties together, G.I. Joe and Transformers. Megatron was the first one to get the treatment, and it turned out okay. There are things I like and things I don't like, and you're probably wondering where the hell I got this, considering it's released in like December this year or whatever. Well, it released in Asia about a month and a bit ago because there were loads of people buying it and getting like our first-hand images and stuff of this thing in videos, and Buyee just so happened to have one because they're located in Asia. So huge thanks to Buyee for helping me get this guy for 90 Canadian dollars no less. This retails for 90 US. Buyee is a proxy buying service located in Japan that allows you to shop from places that wouldn't ship outside of Japan, and I've found a couple of legitimate early toys on there like Sideways, Dark of the Moon B, this, and a couple others. Best way to tell they ain't stolen, if that's something you care about, is if they have the boxes, because packaging is done at a separate facility. Buyee does have a save 2,000 yen or about 20 Canadian dollars ish off your first order when you sign up, so go check them out, linked in the description below. Just make sure you budget for shipping because it can and will get expensive the more you add. Now, this wasn't the only thing I got from there. I also managed to snag Henkei Jetfire in box for 40 bucks, which is a really good deal. And I found another one of these. Yeah, finding rare stuff isn't that hard out here. Now, I have one opened and now I have this one sealed, so that's fun. There are tons more that pop up too, so like, if you see a rare item on there and you just can't buy it at the moment for whatever reason, don't panic, it'll pop up again. This is just basically to show you that. Huge thanks to Buyee for sponsoring today's video. Now back to Megatron. I'm gonna start this in robot mode as the instructions are really not great, and so I wanna walk you through the transformation. From the front, well, it looks like Megatron. This is him without a single accessory, and he looks pretty neat. It's very G1 Megatron. However, because of that, the alt mode doesn't integrate well enough into the robot. He's just wearing bits of tank and it's not very cohesive. I do like the Cyberverse-esque shoulders, but the whole top of the tank is just hanging out back there because of the G.I. Joe Human Alliance type gimmick, and the treads feel very tacked on. The back kibble is removable. You can just take it off. It's designed to come off. And that does look a bit better. However, because it's gone, you're left with this huge gap in the back, and then the shoulder plates don't really peg in because they peg into the backpack. I remember hearing somewhere that this was designed by the G.I. Joe team and not the Transformers team, and if that's true, it definitely shows. There's a lot of paint on this guy though. The shins are all paint, the fists, the missiles, the torso bits are all tempos, the accessories, which I'll get into, like the fusion cannon, is all black paint. So there's a massive paint budget on this guy, and I kind of wish that money was put towards other things, but here we are. Like, why is the gun gray and painted black? Why is it not on the black sprue? Because then you wouldn't have to paint it, and the money that you put to painting that could have gone to engineering something else. I don't know, it's weird. He is a big toy though. I thought it was gonna be about the same size as an old leader, but it's around there. It's bigger. It's definitely bigger than Brawl here. He looks great with older generations toys, I find. The new stuff doesn't seem to match up with the amount of details on Megatron because he has less tooling than a standard generations toy nowadays. But I love putting 2010 Cup and Combiner Wars First Aid next to him. Those aesthetics seem to fit a lot more. You do get a lot of accessories with him. A fusion cannon, a shield, 2 smaller guns, an entire woman, a stand for her, and her gun. This is the Baroness. She looks pretty alright for a 3 3/4 inch toy. She's pretty posable and she has an O-ring torso. She can hold her gun at a pretty weird angle and stand on the little stand she comes with or by herself, but the cooler part is her integration with Megatron. I really like how this goes in. She sits in the turret and it feels very Human Alliance-y. The little null ray looking guns mount on top, the fusion cannon mounts on the wrist? Why the wrist? Why not the arm? That just looks weird. And the shield also mounts on the wrist. I don't like how it's the wrist. The head sculpt actually looks good. I like the way it turned out, but a black helmet would have been even better. I feel like they should have done the comic helmet of the black. That would have been nice. Now the gaps. I feel talking about these is better done in the articulation segment because I can go over them in greater detail in person. So let's talk about it there. So before we get onto the articulation, let's actually go over some of the gaps a little bit because I know this is going to be a concern for a lot of people. Because you turn him around and it's just all like hanging out, gaps, gaps, gaps. Now the gaps have purpose, like they're there for the alt mode, but why are the fists hollow? So this gap is here because that's where the feet tuck into in tank mode. These gaps are here because that's where the legs fold into. This gap is here because of how the torso like shifts down. There's this big growth sticking out of it. That's for the turret. I've untabbed the back. But it's a lot. He's doing splits. It's a lot of gaps. It's not exactly the most pleasant thing to look at from the back. Now, articulation is... I hit something. Let me grab something to show you exactly what it's like. They articulate exactly the same way. I kid you, except actually no, he has an extra joint. He's got a waist joint. This doesn't even have that. Due to the way that this entire torso section transforms, there really isn't room for a waist joint. Also, I just noticed that the paint is slightly off there. That's great. Head actually articulates quite well. It's on a ball joint, so you can get some pretty good expression along with rotating left and right. This kind of gets in the way, but if you rotate it around, then you have no issue whatsoever. Shoulders can do a full 360 degrees. And now if you don't have the backpack tabbed in correctly, going out will just there you go. It's starting to untab it already. So you have to make sure this is not pegged in. Come on. There we go. Once it's pegged in, you're good. The shoulder pad does move independently and you can rotate the whole thing. You get a bicep rotation, elbow bend, nothing at the wrist, which is kind of unfortunate because of how all this works and the fact that the gun pegs into the wrist. As I said, nothing at the waist, not even an ab crunch, even though it's engineered to have one because of the way that this all tabs in up top here. Hips are on ratchets. Not exactly the loudest ratchets in the world. They can go forward and back. The hip skirts are on ball joints, so they can pretty much go wherever you want. You can even flip them up if you don't want them there, but that kind of looks weird to me. They go out that far. You do have a thigh rotation. You have over 90 degrees of bend there at the knee because of the transformation. And no ankle pivot, which is a bit of a shame. Again, as like a G.I. Joe person, probably just want it because it does this, right? But as a Transformers person, I would like it to be as posable as this. It looks really awkward standing like that. I would like it to be as posable as this, but it's not, unfortunately, and that's a shame. So with all that being said, I do still think the robot looks good on face value. It's got a lot of G1 Megatron cues, and they make the grays and blacks work here the way that they have it all set up. The heels are big enough that he's not going to topple over. I just think the hollowness and the lack of certain joints is going to be a big turnoff, especially for Transformers fans. Less so for G.I. Joe fans, because I feel like they would probably display it in his tank mode. I mean, I would if I was a huge G.I. Joe fan. I'm just getting started in G.I. Joe. Now, the transformation is a lot more involved than you might think. The arms do some neat tricks and everything sort of tucks away in a very interesting manner, but the instructions suck ass. So I'm going to go through it step by step so you can see how it's supposed to work, and I'm going to point out some of the cool things that I like. Transformation is a lot more involved. It was like this when I started transforming it. I wasn't expecting this to be as involved as it was, and same goes for this thing. Now, you don't have to remove the backpack for transformation. It can stay on. However, because it's designed to detach and go back on, it falls off quite a bit. So I'm just going to detach it. Just because it makes life a lot easier. But with this thing, you just kind of fold this forward, and that's the cockpit ready to go. So we'll put that off to the side. Now we will start with the torso, well, the arms. So you want to bend these back all the way, as far as they go. Then fold this out, then clip it back in. The instructions, when I first read it, just have you do this, and I'm like, what? And then the next step shows the picture like this, and I was like, okay, that's a bit weird. So once you get that all done, you make sure the camera can focus. There we go. You want to untab the shoulders there, and then bring the torso forward somehow. Like that, there we go. And bring it forward and out. Then you want to bring this entire section down like that. Make sure that's clipped into place. And that looks kind of funny actually. Now what you want to do is you want to rotate these sections forward. Just like so. And we'll get them all situated in a second. Now you want to fold in the heel spurs. Bring the legs forward and then bend them in on themselves, and that tab's gonna go in that slot. Oop. Do it properly. There we go. Come on. They're very stiff legs. So once you get that all situated, now you can use the ab crunch that we've unlocked to bring that forward. Now you want to tab the torso into the small tread sections, and then tab the small tread sections into the large tread sections, like that. Now we'll come up to the front here. We will rotate this and bring that out. Rotate this, bring that out. Bring it in, tab it together at the shoulder joint. This section tabs together as well. And then the arms fit into this spot here. See, like the gaps, like I said, they have a reason. They go in there and then the feet fold into those gaps to clean the whole thing up and make sure that this is all situated properly. Bring this down. And then if you didn't detach this, you don't have to worry about this step, but plug it back in. Like that. And then just sort of fold it around all the junk until it clips into place. Bring the cockpit down, click the cockpit in, and then you take this shield, plug it on the front. And I took the cannons off for this just because it makes it easier. You don't have to do this again. Tab that in and boom. Hiss tank. Alt mode. This is where this thing shines. It looks amazing. I'm told it's about 1-to-1 or close to the exact size of the retro Hiss tanks, so he fits right in there. I don't like the fusion cannon being on the top there, so I'm just gonna take it off. It sticks out too much for me. I'm just gonna remove it. The tank is large. It feels like an old leader class, and the details match that. All the little tachographs, the sculpted detail, the paneling just mostly makes sense and it looks cool. The turret on top does rotate and the cannons do go up and down, and you have space to put the Baroness. She can stand in the turret and fire from the back, or she can sit in the cockpit and drive. This tank can hold up to 4 3¾ Joe figures, 1 in the driver's seat, 1 in the turret, and 2 standing on the pegs at the back, which is awesome. I only have 3, but Legend Shockwave from Combiner Wars fits in the turret, and that's forever staying there for now because that's really funny. Oh, and all the cannons are blast effect compatible. I forgot to mention that. You can take the panel off the back and he can backwards poof. I mean, it looks funny. The alt mode was definitely the first thought here, and it shines so well. It's an impressive robot, but it has its flaws. I mean, as a G.I. Joe fan getting this, you're the target audience, and that definitely hits that audience because they nailed the Hiss tank. But as a strictly Transformers fan, you may be a bit disappointed with it if you pay the full 120 Canadian dollars for it. Fortunately, I didn't. I got it for 90 Canadian, and I feel that's a lot more worth it to me. I like having it. It's just not as impressive as I thought it would be. I do recommend it, but I would mainly say get it on sale. If you find it on a discount like I did, or if it ever goes on sale at, say, Toys R Us or Amazon or Target or wherever, then I would say pick it up, because 120 Canadian is a bit much. Again, huge thanks to Buyee for sponsoring this video. Check them out. They have a boatload of interesting deals and rare items to find, so link in the description down below if you want to go see what they have. And that's my look at Hiss Tank Megatron. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.